Well, the time is just gone 19 minutes past 9 a.m. as we continue with the broadcast this morning. We stay in the company of our Salam Media, our listeners, our viewers on the various platforms. One Nation, 88.9 FM out of Polokwane. We welcome you to the show this morning. And this has been a much awaited interview. We are talking with the former Minister of Health, Dr. Zweli Mkhize. We know the ANC, the Electoral Conference, is coming up as well. And there are many hopefuls in terms of prospects, leadership within the ANC and looking at the presidential position in particular. Now, we know that Dr. Zweli Mkhize has been nominated and looking ahead at his presidential prospects with the African National Congress. And we're going straight across now to join by the Honorable former Minister of Health, Dr. Zweli Mkhize. Dr. Mkhize, good morning to you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning to all the viewers, and thank you very much, Matt. And I'm grateful that we got the opportunity now to have a discussion.
Well, certainly is. And obviously, having this discussion at a very, very critical period for this country. We know that the country is at a critical juncture in more ways than one. The economy, corruption, looking at the political landscape, which is at the crossroads. There's just so much happening on a social level, on a socio-economic level, poverty, joblessness, food insecurity. Now, looking at where the country stands right now and looking at yourself personally, your nomination on the presidential prospects and your ambitions, Dr. Mkhize.
Well, thank you very much. Let me say that our biggest concern as a person, I would say the challenge of the difficult economy that we're going through has to be attended to. The high level of unemployment, high crime rate, and the high level of inequality, and the poverty levels have gone quite high. And so all of this needs to be given attention. And of late, you have got very high fuel prices, food prices. There has to be some form of intervention that we make to try and make the lives more bearable for our people. Now, all of these are the reasons why we needed South Africa to be liberated. It was about ensuring that we can improve the lives of all the people of South Africa. And this is about making sure that our economy is transformed to give us the ability to serve each and every one of us, giving us a better life. So my acceptance has been on the basis that I think that we need to do something to fix the economy so that the lives of the people are improved, to fix government in the way that we deal with service delivery issues, and also look at our relations, geopolitics, to look at how we can leverage from the relations with other countries to make South Africa a better country.
Yes, and also I think, Dr. Mkhize, you're speaking about fixing the country. Now, you have been part of the government for a long time, and looking at the ANC, looking at the government, they have been central to many of the problems that we are seeing. We're looking at ASCOM, we're looking at failed SOEs, we look at cadre appointments. Now, there has been just general mismanagement in more ways than one. And looking at the ANC, where it is at this point in time, looking at the track record, what needs to change? What are some of the lessons that we have learned so that we can restore the credibility of the organization itself and also at government at large?
Let me start by what we need to fix in society. I think the main issue is the economy. I agree with you. We have to ensure safety of energy supply so that everyone can have uninterrupted supply of electricity. We must fix the ESCOM, bring in more new expertise to deal with ESCOM, and also to accept that we have to keep a balance between the coal and all the other renewables. Secondly, we need to focus on job creation. We need to talk to private sector, and together with government, we can actually pull together a huge infrastructure build program addressing the social infrastructure, the hospitals, and the schools, and so on. This, for me, is an urgent issue that we can do to stimulate the economy. We need to look at how we can improve the housing of our people, so that you've seen, people being wiped out by floods. That is the informal settlements in the cities. We need to actually change and densify the human settlements and bring people in the center of town in a decent way and eliminate the shacks. And in that process, would also be pushing up infrastructure built and government and private sector working together. We need to build the entrepreneurship in the African townships, in the villages, in the rural areas. We need people to learn to trade in their own areas, to be able to build their own economy, bring some of the industries closer to the people where people live, and all of that together will help us to address the problems of unemployment. We need to work together to deal with crime. Now, crime can't be dealt with only by police. We need to organize every district and bring religious leaders, traditional leaders, civil society to work together with government, how to address the drugs, how to address the murders, the gender-based violence, working together, link it up with job creation and rehabilitation from drugs. If you deal with it like that, then it's a comprehensive package that can deal with it. Now, if I can just pass that and say, we need then to make sure that government takes a lot of accountability. We must make sure that the leaders, we deal with the issues of corruption. The state capture report must be implemented, hand it over to the prosecutors, to the investigators, and let them deal with it without fear or favor, so that we can clean up government. And I've had a reputation of working very hard to clean government. When I worked as a premier, we actually had an award, across all the provinces because of our focus on fighting crime and focusing on fighting corruption, working with the media, with the community, and so on. And all of that is a very important contribution that we must make. But all of that needs a very strong, united ANC that is focused, that has got credibility. So we need to bring back the strong party discipline. People must be decent, and they must also respect the people. They must be humble, and all the leaders must be accountable to the people. And people must know you've got a leader, they must be accessible. And all of that means that the ANC member leadership must be strong. My submission, therefore, is that I have run a province. I've also led the ANC. I've brought the ANC united, because if you have a united party, you are able to deal with people if they are corrupt, if they are ill-disciplined, because you can't, you don't take sides there. You have one side, and that is why it's important. So with all of that, I've offered my experience and services and track record to the organization as a candidate to be a president.
Yes, Dr. Mkhize, I'm quite encouraged that you brought up the question of leadership, because the perception is there is a leadership vacuum in the country. There is a shortage of quality leadership which is capable of taking the country forward. Now, what we've seen until now is we've seen a lot of power mongering, we've seen the factionalism, we've seen infighting. Now, under all these circumstances, how do you see yourself in the role of a leader, as a president in the country, in building leadership capacity, leaders who can efficiently take this country forward?
If I just take from the history of what one has done, I have served the African National Congress as a chairperson of the branch, as a regional leader, as a provincial leader, as a national leader. And in all of this, the experience that I've got is that you need to be, as a leader, you must be firm on the principles of justice, integrity, and making sure that people deliver and serve our people in humility. And that's been my track record. And I believe if you manage the party properly, then you can take us to a point where the party will give you the correct machinery, where there are no factions, because the factionalism is a problem. It's a way of protecting wrongdoing. People will say, if you do wrong and you're in one faction, no, I'm being penalized because I belong to the wrong faction, or no, I can't be penalized because I belong to the dominant faction. Now we have to get rid of factionalism, and that has been my experience. Now, in the past, when we went to conferences, you dissolve all of the groups that are lobbying for leadership and forget and let the leadership unite. Now, this time around, we've seen people keeping the names of their factions for the past 5 years, and they behave as though it's a structure that is legitimate within the organization. That is what's causing the problem. And the leaders mustn't talk two things. One side, they want unity. On the other side, they encourage factionalism. You can't use money to buy members and votes in the party. That is actually breaking down the morality in the party. So all of these things need to be dealt with. Now, my contribution in this is that over the past 20, 30 years, I have served the organization. I understand that if you are a leader, you don't work with people that you like. You must tolerate all the views, take views from everybody, and make sure they contribute. But you must also make sure that all the leaders must account to the public. They must be linked to the public. You can't have leaders who are high floating and you only see them on television, but when you've got problems on the ground, they are not there to be seen. You want leaders who must always look at what's happening on the ground. So when I was chairman of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, I used to call all the councillors and I get an independent report and say, this council is not performing, this municipality is going to go bankrupt, what are you going to do? If we think that someone is not performing, we'd actually remove them, and we call the caucuses, vote them out if they resist to be taken out. So I believe it's very, very important to have firmness in the leadership. In my case here, from what I can see, some of the decisions that have been taken and by the ANC, most of the policy decisions are good to transform the economy. The economy is very unequal. It needs to help to distribute resources to everybody. So because the policies are good, I believe that the ANC is right as a vehicle to transform our society and the economy. But I think that when they are not implemented, and when the discipline in the party is bad, when the corruption is bad, then you need to change leadership and focus on those who are going to be tight and strong on dealing with that. That's what I could offer as a member of the ANC. If you ask me, why should people vote for the ANC? I would say South Africa needs to be transformed, and the ANC has given us the policies which are good, which can transform. But because they are not implemented, now let's get leaders who are going to go and implement properly. It's like we've got a horse. The horse is good to run, but it's not being managed properly by the jockeys. So the jockeys must change and get the horse to continue to run. It will win the race.
Yes. Now, just coming to an issue where you personally are on record of saying that you've learned lessons from the digital vibes scandal, and we know the Pala issue is actually playing out with President Ramaphosa at this point in time, and with these scandals like an albatross, not only over your head, the president himself at this point in time, and as the Zondo Commission had also pointed out, Dr. Mkhize, confidence in the government from voters is diminishing very, very fast, in fact, rapidly. Now, just looking at restoring the image of the ANC and the government, how do you see that? What needs to be done?
Let me first clarify the issue of the digital vibes communication problem. This issue was raised by the Auditor General in December 2020, and it was my responsibility to ensure that it was investigated, and I initiated the investigation. I called on the DG to get the forensic independent auditor. They did that, and they gave us the report. On the 26th of May, I then announced all the findings that yes, there was irregularity in this report, in this procurement, and that we were going to discipline the staff who were involved, and we were going to recover the money that was involved. I also spoke to the SIU and told them that we'll hand over the report so that they can see what the investigation we've done. I reported to the president. So from where I sit, I did everything that a responsible leader needs to do to distance yourself from acts of corruption and make sure that it is properly handled. In a few days after that, then something came up to suggest that names of family members had been involved down the line, trading with those who were part of the contract. Although the family was not themselves part of the contract with the Department of Health, no, they're not part of Digital Vibes, they're not subcontractors of Digital Vibes, but because they traded somewhere, then that gave a wrong impression of very close proximity. So I distanced myself from the investigation. I said I'll hand it over, inform the SIU that I'll stand away from it. So the SIU then took that report and they've submitted to President Ramaphosa exactly the report that I'd given. But where I differed with the SIU, they then started raising issues about my involvement. that I was involved in the procurement, and I said it's not true. And then they said that I transgressed the constitution because I broke the cabinet resolution. I said it's not true. And so all of those issues, then they said I was conflicted on this matter. Now, the issue of the conflict of interest relating to my son was actually taken to Parliament, and Parliament has cleared me on that. The Ethics Committee of Parliament has cleared me on that. Then the department has disciplined all of those members with the SIU giving evidence. There was no evidence of fraud. There was no evidence of involvement of the minister at the time. So this proves that the report was false. Then I have then asked the SIU to produce the resolution of cabinet that I transgressed, because that means I broke the constitution. Now, they can't produce. They've written to us to say they don't have that document. So you can't accuse someone and say you've broken a resolution of cabinet when you don't have such a resolution. It does not exist. So I explained to them that their report is flawed, is false, and it is devoid of any truth. I'm sending it to court to be set aside. But having said so, let me say that I have learned lessons. If you are a leader, you must be accountable. If there are questions that are raised about you, must stand on the side and allow the process. I've been investigated now for the past 18 months, and they have not been able to do anything. There's not been any arrest, or there's not been any further anything found about it. Now, the Hawks have said they're not investigating me. So on that basis, I believe that this matter just waits for the court to set aside that report. But having said that as well, I think that all leaders need to remain accountable. Now, lots of allegations get thrown our way. The fact that there was an allegation on its own does not mean that you are guilty. You need to get out of it. So I'll give you an example. A very sad situation arose of Messi Diokoren, who was murdered in Joburg. And the next thing I see in court, one young fellow says he was forced by the police to make an allegation that Zweli Mkhize had instituted the assassination. It is false, it's untrue, but there it is, it's in the public. So if the public goes by allegations, I could be accused of being a murderer. In fact, had that guy not said to the court that it is untrue, he was forced by the police to make a wrong statement, I would be standing there and everybody would be saying Zweli Mkhize is a murderer. I've been in the past, I've sued newspapers who have actually accused me of such things in the past, because the only way we go, you come across lots of allegations. My wife had to go to court when people falsely said she offered people tenders from Department of Health and extorted people money. We took the matter to court. Others went to the police and said Zweli Mkhize was working with drug dealers. I sent the matter to the police. The police deal with it. So I come across these allegations many times, and what is important, you must stand aside, allow the process of investigation, and let the matter be proven in court. And in this case, I've learned lessons. Firstly, that we must always be more vigilant, and that I must always ask a lot of questions, and I must not take things lightly. If there's any association, I must just make sure that there's nothing that will actually implicate anybody in the wrongdoing. I've not been involved in procurement, and ministers and politicians should not get involved in that. So those are the lessons that I have learned out of the whole process. I can't comment about Phala Phala because I don't have much information, but I have raised the matter in the National Executive Committee. Again, I feel that because of the factionalism, the matter has not been properly discussed, but we do need to discuss it because the matter is coming up in Parliament. It is not my view now, but it's going to have to be addressed at some point, but I'm not the one who can make comments about it because there's very little information other than what's available in the media that one is aware of. So I think that the ANC, firstly, we must understand that the ANC is the multitudes of people who vote for it, not the few leaders who might be accused of wrongdoing, of corruption. But the mission to liberate people of South Africa, improve their lives, stands on, even if we've got leaders who might be weak, who make mistakes. The mission stands on. It's a historic mission that all our grandfathers, our forefathers committed, that we must make sure we fight. So I believe we must continue that fight, make sure that transformation happens and that people's lives are improved. And in so doing, I'm offering myself to say I want to make a contribution, because the work of liberating South Africans and improving their lives and making us a better country where we live in peace, in harmony, where the record of apartheid and legacy of apartheid is not visible, where we deal with poverty, everybody having a job, and no crime. All of that for me remains very, very important, and I'll continue to serve people whether I am in a position or not, because when I was a young doctor, I took my commitment that I will serve our people even beyond treating one patient, but we need to treat the entire political, socio-political system that will improve the lives of people.
Yes. Now, Dr. Mkhize, there are a number of questions, and I'm not too sure whether we are going to have time because we are pressed for time. One says that can South Africans be truly liberated when we are still being instructed by the West? Can't we let the West be our guinea pigs for a change? Also, there's a question that says, do you think public servants should own businesses? And this one here, perhaps, if you could just give us an answer. Do you believe there is a political witch hunt against you?
I think that there are indications of things that are not correct. I have said the SIU came to me with a predetermined view of finding me guilty even without checking the facts. In a private discussion, my advocate was talking to the advocate of the SIU, and he came back and told me that they wanted to do an ace makashule on me. They wanted to find that the people who are involved are associated with me and throw me into that cause, even if I am not, they can't find evidence against me. So I actually do believe that there might be some machinations, but I want to always make a distinction. When the issue of the digital vibes came about, it was correct that it had to be investigated, and I support that the SIU should have investigated it. I just disagree with their conclusion because they're throwing me into a thing where I really should not have been thrown in, and that's where I disagree with them. And I've said that they're biased. I said that their views were predetermined, and I'm asking them why, because then that issue is a political issue. We have actually had a lot of rumors outside, which I won't really raise here, and therefore I do believe that some people do try and interfere with the justice system. But in this case, I don't want to separate the fact of my accountability for something that goes wrong in the department, because that I must always remain, I must accept that there has to be accountability, but also I have accepted the public outrage and anger and so on this matter, and I've apologized publicly, and all of that, to me, I want to separate the issues. But there are lots of other machinations at the back. I won't focus on that. I focus on the fact that what the public has, that I owe the public, is to explain and account as I'm doing now. Now, the issue that you're raising in relation to the West, I believe it's important for us to keep a very strong relationship with many people in the world who share our own history, who share the same conditions that we've come from, freeing ourselves out of colonialism. And I believe that for our relationship with the East is very, very important. A relationship with the East, with Russia, with China, with India, with the Southeast Asia. If you took together those blocks, if you took India, you took Russia and China and Southeast Asia, there you've got almost close to 4 billion people who can be our market, who could be our trading partners, where we can share diversity of religions and cultures and so on, because we're a very diverse nation. Therefore, we can't only be aligned to one side of the globe. We need to align ourselves across, or as we put it, we say non-aligned. But where South Africa will benefit from the relationship, we need to actually work on that.
Yes. And just finally, obviously the KZN province has thrown its weight behind you. How do you see your prospects in other parts around the country?
I actually received support from all the provinces. And from what I've seen, the leaders of the different provinces have gone around and discussed. They have found a lot of support for a change of leadership, and offered that they would give me the support that is necessary to win the conference. So I believe, therefore, to me, it has been a very humbling experience to be asked by the members of the party. I want to be out there to serve our people, on behalf of the African National Congress and on behalf of all the people of South Africa, who must feel that it was worth it for Nelson Mandela to spend 27 years, and after that we are now able to correct a lot of wrongs of the past. I believe that with all the weaknesses and the shortfalls and the pitfalls and some of the detours and some of the uncomfortable experience that we have gone through, we still have to pull ourselves together, unite as South Africans, make sure that we work as one country, like we did when we were fighting against COVID, like we did when we were working on the World Cup. We were able to show the world what a wonderful nation that we are. I think that our children must always learn of the history of the pain and the suffering of apartheid times, but they must then be able to say we're grateful for our fathers and our forefathers for helping us out into the land, the promised land. I believe in a future South Africa with a bright, a future. I believe in a society where people will respect each other, children will be living happily, no crime, and that for me we must struggle until we achieve that. Even if there are mistakes in the ANC, but I think we must make it clear that the commitment to correct a lot of the wrongs is there. And with me, it drives me that we must correct it so that South Africans must feel that they're being served properly with dignity and respect.
Well, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, I must say it's been an absolute pleasure engaging with you this morning here on Salam Media, and we have been accredited to be as part of the media at the conference, so hopefully we will get to meet at the electoral conference as well. But for now, we wish you all the best. Have yourself a great day forward, and all the best in your ambitions to become the president of South Africa.
Thank you very much to the viewers of Salam Media, and thanks for all your interviews and the questions. I want to say it's been a real pleasure. Shukran.
Shukran to you as well. Dr. Zweli Mkhize with us this morning. And I know we have been running extremely late. We've got quite a schedule going forward. But for now, we're going to go for a break. We'll be back.